Yo.
What's up, man?
What's up?
So I'm liking this discussion. I'm
Yeah,
digging it.
yeah, man. This is important stuff. I think Bernie kind of well, actually, maybe we should pause until they come back
Oh yeah,
in.
yeah, for sure.
Well, whatever. We can start. I mean, I think Bernie kind of opened us up to some things that people were taking for granted, and people were just kind of they had just kind of fallen victim to this. This is the way it is. How are we going to change these kind of things? And now I think it's up to us to run with the momentum and make people
Well,
think everything.
in his book, he talks about the fact that he can only do so much himself, even though he's a powerful senator.
Sure.
He puts the book. He titles the book "Our Revolution," which
Yes.
I totally agree with.
Yeah.
Now, me and Bernie may differ on how to get there,
Sure.
but I definitely have similar goals in mind.
Yeah, and it's there's just a lot to think about. I think we've just kind of put ourselves in a situation where we're just being taken advantage of by corporate entities and big developers and
Billionaires.
Billionaires. Yep, these really powerful figures.
Which, by the way, I've met a lot of billionaires. Well, not a lot, but a few. And I'll tell you the truth. Meeting the billionaires kind of made me more worried for the country, because billionaires, people think like I heard our friend Damien talk about the Rothschilds,
Okay.
and that's kind of conspiracy talk to me. To be honest, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up, because everybody that you meet on that level, you know what their number one enemy is? Other billionaires.
Okay.
They hate each other. They despise each other. They view each other as number one competition. That's why we have billionaires playing off against each other in the highest levels of politics. You have good billionaires, quote unquote, on your side, and enemy billionaires on the other side. No matter who it is. No matter who it is. You could be on the right, and I would tell you the same thing.
Sure.
Because they view each other as wolves, and we're all sheep. And the wolves basically compete for the sheep. They don't compete with each other. They don't look at each other and go, I saw you at the country club the other day. They look at each other and go, hey man, you were interested in what I was interested in the other day and took my deal away from me. And so they view each other as enemies, and I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
What was that?
We got Ish, because I was talking Ish. I've met a few billionaires in my life, and I was saying that the thing you got to
I've
keep
met
in
a couple.
mind, and so you should know that the thing that you got to keep in mind is that they hate each other more than they hate us or look at us as competition. They absolutely despise each other, and that's why I never got behind the conspiracy theories that talk about like some small group of people controlling the entire world, because that's not realistic to me after meeting those people. They to me have either very small groups that they trust, or they're completely solitaire.
Well, I would say to the contrary, if I were
Really?
in arguendo, that while on a personal level they may have, and obviously there comes this spirit of competition on some level, but in arguendo, I would say that personally for sure, but there is a camaraderie that exists when it comes to investing capital. Right, like there is this idea that because the pool of billionaires isn't large. I mean, obviously we have numbers, but those numbers in comparison to total population are not large. It's a small percentage.
It's
right?
a handful. It's a handful.
Right, and they are certainly cognizant of the notion that what can potentially affect one billionaire can affect me. So there is that camaraderie there, and there is a camaraderie in how they invest. Billionaires want to stay billionaires. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't
Absolutely.
necessarily want to see other billionaires lose their billions. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
on some level, when you're operating on that level, what you do affects me, not what anyone else does. What you do as a billionaire affects me being a billionaire on some level. I can profit, right? Like I usually am I'm at the same table that you're sitting at. We might not be
Right.
eating the same meal. You
That's
understand
true.
what I'm saying? But I'm
Yeah.
at the
No, I
same table
absolutely do
that you're
understand.
sitting at. So while personally they may feel some type of way towards each other, which I can imagine if we're talking about elitists, that's probably the case more often than not. I think that
Yes.
their interests align.
Well, no. I think what you're talking about, if correct me if I'm wrong, is it's the class as itself, as a class of people,
Right. Right.
which definitely has and what's his name, Warren Buffett talks about this. He says that there is a class war and your side is losing. And he knows that basically he doesn't have to do anything in order for his wealth to continue to accumulate and be larger and larger, because other people are already pushing for more laws, less restrictions, that sort of thing. and
Hmm.
and and he just, like you said, uh, um, uh, absorbs the benefits.
Right. Right.
Are we missing KD, by the way?
Yeah, we're missing him. He may pop back in.
Okay, great.
I want to segue. I don't want to segue too far because I do like this topic. I was just
Okay.
curious when we were talking about, when I you know suggested AOC. I just want to know, and this is off topic, but it's more along the lines of, you know, a viable candidate that will be respectful, or at least, cognizant and acknowledge, the importance of immigration and some other things. I currently and have been a proponent of Katie Porter, and I'm just curious if, me and Mike have talked about it. I'm curious if you're familiar with her and if you have a perspective of
I am
any.
not familiar with her, but I will be by the end of by the end of tonight. I've written her name down. I've heard her name before, but I actually don't know much about her.
She's fascinating. I find her to be brilliant. She's out of California,
Hmm.
and every time she talks, I listen. And you know, it's this is probably a weird comparison, but and she's a Democrat,
Right.
but the way she speaks and the way that she projects this level of intelligence, the only person that I can think of that, and obviously we're talking polar opposites, but she reminds me of what Condoleezza Rice was to the Republican Party.
Right. Well, I'm looking over her, and she has an impressive early life and education.
She's
Um,
brilliant.
she's apparently she studied under Elizabeth Warren, by the way,
Right.
Hmm.
and graduated magna cum laude with a Juris Doctorate in 2001. Amazing.
Yeah, she's
She's
kind of versed in the art of the takedown of
oh
folks who are
yes,
coming at her with BS.
yo,
She's
she'll
like,
eat you alive.
yeah,
She will eat you alive. Which
And
that's why I mentioned.
she's on great committees. Committee for financial services, subcommittee of consumer protections and financial institutions, which I think is one of the most powerful subcommittees in our Congress, and the subcommittee on investor protection, entrepreneurship, and capital markets, which is, of course, you can imagine is in my wheelhouse.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be impressed by her.
I am so far.
Yeah, and I've watched her. I only know about her because during the whole Trump investigation, she was questioning some people, and what I saw from her, and I've seen a couple of things since, but what I saw from her, it just reminded me of there was a time period in our history, 9/11 commission, the whole nine, where the smartest thing that I think the Republicans did was send Condoleezza Rice to answer questions.
Hmm.
And I watched these guys, these old white guys, grill her. And I'm thinking to myself, why are y'all asking her? She's eating you alive. Like she's literally chewing you up and she's spitting you out. Like, and I was
Well,
so
Condoleezza
mad.
Rice is brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
She's been in government since the Carter administration, but
Oh
she
wow.
switched parties in the Carter administration and started working for Republicans. Republicans couldn't have gotten a better candidate for many issues that they
She's
had.
brilliant. She's
She's
brilliant.
absolutely brilliant. I have nothing but respect for her. Nothing. I don't care what party she was from. If she was
Right.
a
That's
Democrat, I would be twice as happy.
listen. I'm also a very big fan, and it's interesting because I lean left. Many people call me a centrist. Some people can't peg me
Same,
down. You know what I
same.
mean? But I certainly am on the left of things. That having been said, I still recognize how great Condoleezza Rice, like she's great. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's
She's
undeniable.
brilliant.
It's
I don't want to say
undeniable.
great. I'll say she's brilliant. You know what I
She's
mean?
brilliant. Yeah.
She's brilliant, and that's how Katie Porter strikes me. But on the Democratic side of things, like she comes off as just very astute. You know, always the most intelligent person in the room. You know what I mean? And I watched her just eat people alive. Like if you come at her wrong, you better, man, listen. You better be on your P's and Q's because
Well, she attended as a student. She attended both Harvard and Yale. My God, not many people have that in their backgrounds.
now I'm being educated.
Yeah, she's quite amazing. She's
Yeah,
quite amazing.
she
I have to
fascinates
hear her
me.
speak. That's my last test for
Oh, you gotta watch.
politicians.
You gotta watch some clips, man.
Yeah, I will. I
Listen.
will.
She's no joke. I once posted on Facebook some months back. I posted an article where she was grilling a politician, and he kept redirecting, and she just kept right with the exact same question, and she's like, well, I know you're a politician, so I'm sure you understand the question that I'm asking you. So I'll restate the question. And she like really was not letting it go. And it's interesting because I posted the article where she did that, and I remember prefacing it with, every time she talks, I listen, which is just the case. Like every opportunity I get to see her talk, I pay attention.
That was my feeling towards Elizabeth Warren. I wanted her to continue running for president, to be honest with you. And I think that if she had run in 2016, we would have seen a much different result than President Trump.
Yes. Definitely. So, okay, let's talk about it, because here we have a progressive person who people were excited about, who had some fire in her belly. We had Trump that we wanted to defeat. We had Bernie Sanders in there.
Yes.
We had a Hillary in there who was very divisive. And let's keep it real. Some people were against her for being a strong woman, but some people were against her for being a Clinton, and because they were kind of waking up to the whole neoliberal thing and what she represented. And she definitely kind of represented some of the older ideals of let's take from the right a little bit and try to add that in there to get some of the Midwestern folks and folks from the other side we want in order to win, right? But
centrist.
Well, not just centrist, because from the other side too, though, right? Not just in the center, but we're talking about the super predator kind of stuff, right? Like, even though that was older stuff she said, we're just talking about like borrowing from like the other side as far as a little bit of fear mongering and a little bit of race baiting.
Yeah, she was
stuff like that.
I've met her, and she was not pleasant to meet, to be honest with you.
That's not a surprise. But Elizabeth Warren, on the other hand, would have met the criteria of being strong, progressive, not having that baggage, and we would have been voting for a woman as well. Which
That's right.
Representation is important. Whether we want to call it identity, politics, or any of that stuff, representation is important. And I think all those people who have problems.
Well, I just want to be clear that there is a difference between what we call identity politics and voting for a woman. And anyone who chooses to conflate this term or the definition of identity politics with voting for a woman is, in my opinion, and I'm going to say it here on that issue, you're an idiot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not you, Mike, but anyone who
I got
chooses
you.
to conflate those two. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's idiotic. It's
Poor
just
Mike.
dumb.
I was gonna say.
I just accept it. He calls me an idiot, and I just accept it. Well, Ish, what do you think is the difference, though? What is the real difference?
So, identity politics is a pejorative term, right?
Mhm.
Probably coined by conservatives.
Okay.
Certainly exhibited in liberals. It's a criticism that I have because we have all of these different identity groups who like I've said it before, who certainly want they want to cut the equality pie into pieces, right? And their piece is the most important piece, right? That's so, but it's certainly a term that I believe was born of some conservative ideology, a conservative way of describing liberals. I think it's, while pejorative, I don't think it's inaccurate, right? So you have the LGBT community, you have the African American community, you have the Latinx community, you have college educated white women, you have immigrants,
unions, so forth and so forth.
Right. All of these different groups that can be identified based upon a thing. Whereas when you look at the Conservative Party, they usually, you don't find,
much difference.
Right. They unify behind a certain thing. So if you're going to vote for a woman, in my mind, right? If you're going to vote for a woman, or if you're going to vote for a black person, or if you're going to vote for anyone from a marginalized group, I think that putting that person under this pejorative term, identity politics, is like you're conflating two different things, right? The natural process, what should be natural, it's kind of like when we talk about diversity, which I don't like the term inclusion, but when we talk about diversity, say in movies or representation in media or what have you, right? The big argument that I make is that, well, these things should be normal, right? We shouldn't have to even use the term diversity or inclusion or whatever term you want to use. It should just be the norm, right? We should just be, these people should have always been represented, shouldn't have been so one-sided. So for me, a natural thing, and I don't even like to get it into my head that it's not natural. A natural thing is if a woman runs for president, she's running for president because a person ran for president, not a woman, so we have to put her, she's a college educated white woman, or she's a black woman. So while these things matter for sure, but that's not the sum total of who she is, right? She's not the identity, she's not the representative of this particular marginalized group who's running. She is obviously from that group. Like AOC isn't running because she's a representative if she runs, because she's a representative of a woman from the Latinx community, right? She's just a viable candidate who has the credentials and the platform to run. As again, I think the thinking behind it comes from a white male patriarchy, right? Because the standard has been white males, right?
You know what some of it is, though, too, Ish, being that we have what we call you a politico, or what would we? Is that a term?
Please don't insult me like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm.
Usually what I called myself was an advisor or a campaign manager or something like that.
So I think, like, in the political world, we kind of look at some of these different dynamics and demographics and say, interesting. Maybe they can pull more people into the fold. Like, for instance,
Absolutely.
like Obama was great at getting young people to vote, and like in the political world,
record numbers. In
the political world, we call them like universes, like the total number of people who are going to like vote, right? And we say, in order for Obama to win, he's got to expand the universe, because as it sits, he just can't physically get enough votes. But no despair, if he gets young people to register to vote in record amounts, or not even record amounts, but in large amounts, he can expand the total number of voters. Therefore, switch up the piece of the pie that he can get, right? So I
So
think
because the candidate is attractive to an identity group per se, because I get what you're saying. Does that mean that the candidate is a product of identity politics?
I don't know about that, but where I was going is, I think where we get into some of this thinking is, as a political person, you try to like analyze everything, and they're like, oh, okay, so AOC is a young person. She is going to get generation, whatever they're called, Z, on board maybe more than a Biden could. She's like fiery, unabashedly socialist. She's got great, exciting ideas. She's able to take these patriarchs to task in the media every time they try to F with her. She uses Twitter like very well. So she's going to maybe excite the electorate and bring people to the polls. Whereas some of these old white guys, people are kind of sitting home like, it's just another election with people who don't really give a shit about me. I'm not excited about my options between Trump A and Biden B. So people start looking at these other demographics and stuff, and some of them happen to be based on things like race, age, where she's from, maybe that the fact that she's working class. So some of that stuff comes into play. But I agree with you, Ish, that sometimes we think about these things way too much, and we start using them in ways that seem a little unnatural.
Disingenuous.
Yeah. Exactly, disingenuous.
Yeah. I see that totally.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sorry, you guys were on a tangent that I want you to
I think I lost my tangent. What was I saying?
Mike was talking about, it's what got me on the whole identity thing. Mike was talking about 2016. Elizabeth Warren.
The race.
Yeah, because you were saying Elizabeth, it would have been different. Like maybe Elizabeth
I think
would have
so.
won, and I was agreeing with you, saying that damn, if she had ran, and you know why she didn't run was because she wanted to give space to
Hillary.
Yeah, to Hillary.
And I'm like,
yeah,
damn,
they had an agreement, which I think worked out bad for Elizabeth Warren.
Worked out bad for America.
Yeah,
it worked out bad for everybody.
Watch out who you make deals with.
That's very true. That's very true.
And I'm going to keep it real, because, well, I won't go there, but let's just say that for some progressives, Elizabeth did not turn out the way that some of us had hoped.
That's
right?
true. That's true. I see
that. Because she turned on Bernie?
Yeah.
Well, because she turned on healthcare, first of all. Not real. I mean, Bernie is like a Bernie is more like a casualty of war, I think, or what's another way of putting it? He's like, well, what's it called when you like...
Politics is war by other means, so yes.
When you fire and someone's like an unintended...
you're
friendly
about...
fire? Friendly fire, maybe?
Well, not really friendly, but,
no, I know what you're talking about.
Someone gets caught up in the crossfire, kind of, right? That's like, to me, it's like, it was going well, and then people say what happened was some of her...
It was collateral damage.
The collateral damage, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. So some of her well-to-do supporters, weren't so sure about some of this universal health care stuff, and she had to start backing away from it. And healthcare was one of the big ones that progressives really, really wanted. And then she started to back away from a few things, and then it started to be like, and then all of a sudden she turned on Bernie, and that was just kind of like the
last straw.
Yeah.
I understand that. My support for her, that we really, for Christ's sake, we need someone who understands the economy well in order to put it back together, because it's been ravaged as much as anything else, as much as our healthcare, as much as our housing situation. The economy is sick, and it needs help. and he needs
Yeah.
somebody that understands it from a perspective, not from the vulture capitalism school of thought like Trump is,
Right.
but from somebody that actually understands how it mechanically works like an academic. They're not looking for every single advantage that they can put in their pocket.
Yeah. And so I guess what it comes down to is like sometimes the people with a great understanding are just maybe not willing enough to depart from the systems
Convention?
like we've been exactly.
Yeah, convention.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand
exactly.
that. I understand that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where we lay. All that is to say that she, I think would have been a much better choice than the choices we have now. But it's kind of interesting because Elizabeth started off kind of like fiery and exciting, and then whatever happened, she just wasn't getting a lot of the votes. Now, I'm a Bernie supporter, but I'll tell you, 2016 Bernie looked a lot better than 2020 Bernie to me. I don't know if you agree, but
I agree.
He was distinguished. He was distinguished back then. Nobody else had his ideas. He let other people run with his ideas, and I would have been on some Denzel in Training Day type
Training
shit.
Day.
Like,
I was gonna...
like, listen, all you motherfuckers, like, I started this shit.
Yeah,
I was
right.
talking about all of this, like, I got.
Who lifted Bernie's ideas?
He lost the contingency of supporters from 2016 to 20.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
How so?
Well, and I was saying this on social media a couple years ago. I'm like, it seems like many of the people that supported, at least in my little pocket of social media, many of the people they certainly went over to Warren.
Yep.
No, I was always for Warren. I'm not officially a Bernie supporter, but I respect him greatly. The thing about Bernie is that he's a stubborn guy, very stubborn.
Yes.
So
yes.
when you get on his bad side, he'll never let you back up.
Okay.
So I've noticed this just throughout the thing, and to be honest, I think he did what was best for the country. When a lot of people in his camp,
he's the Obi-Wan.
He is the Obi-Wan of our modern politics.
Yeah.
But he was willing to let the Darth Vader cut him in half in order to progress, for the story to progress.
Exactly. And that's what happened. Like, people, I'm like, man, like, take a moment and be happy about some things that happened. Because, like, being a New York guy, all right, our organization supported Bernie back in 2016. And I went to Occupy. I remember all that stuff. We were like, oh, Occupy died down. What did it really accomplish? Okay, some people say that Occupy sets up a Bernie, to rise up and be recognized. And then, like, when Bernie didn't win in 2016, New York got free higher education, $15 an hour minimum wage, and paid family leave, all in like a year. Like, I've been working, environmental and consumer advocacy kind of campaign since 2001. I've never seen that many victories like back to back like that. And we won all of those back to back. So, that was some Obi-Wan shit to me. He lost, but we all won. And,
well, the thing is, like remember I mentioned Reagan before losing.
Yeah.
That losing for Reagan, at least historically, was the best thing that could have ever happened. It launched people that considered him a joke from Hollywood started taking him seriously right afterwards. Big money interest in the party, and that in itself gave connections and gave him respect that he didn't have. Bernie, same way. He may not. He's like the Moses. He may lead his people out of Egypt, but never this land.
But I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
Never gets to see the promised land.
Never gets to see the promised land like Moses.
Yeah, or like yeah.
Or like any other wildly progressive candidate. They had it up. Has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And usually it starts small, gains momentum, and somebody squishes it, most likely.
So yeah, I
However, I'm no, but wait, let me just finish the statement,
Sure,
and then I'll take you.
Yeah.
But that moment, you never know what comes out of those type of movements. Stronger organizers, better run
right.
policies,
Sure.
better candidates, better policymakers, that sort of stuff. Because all of those people have to start in a belief in something. I feel that when we get a victory, the left takes it super hard when we lose, and we shouldn't.
Yes.
We should view it as a chance to reorganize and re-equip ourselves
Sure.
and get back out there.
Sure.
You're
Guys,
speaking my
I'm going to take
language.
a quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Mike, you can pause it.
Okay. We might as well talk because we're going to be losing time, right? We're going to be heading towards that 40. We talked when you were gone too, so I mean we don't have to talk about what he wasn't talking about, but yeah. No, I mean it's sometimes I give Joey a hard time. I'm like, man, you got to let the Bernie thing go, man. Like there's nothing you can do about it now, you know. But as far as him saying the left taking it hard, but he's right. Like every time there's a loss, I'm like, dude, you're gonna tear it up next time. Like I know people locally who have lost, but ran a great campaign, and I'm like, to even know them was like cool. Like I'm seeing them in the paper, and I'm seeing like, I'm seeing them on these little commercials. I'm like, man, you ran a great campaign against someone who has been in office for like decades. Like, don't feel bad. You like put up good numbers. Like, you're only going to look that much better for next time. So, he's right as far as.
Well, not only is he right, he speaks to something, and I'm kind of glad we record these because I'm already on record saying what I'm about to say now. I'm just going to echo previous sentiments, right? He said we take these things so hard, and in the meantime, we have an opportunity to reorganize. And I remember previously in another conversation, I was saying, we're not critical. We refuse to be critical of ourselves. And if you couple that with how hard we take our losses, it should speak to us being more critical of ourselves in the interim, right? So that we can reorganize, re-strategize, focus on where we are weak, address those weaknesses. Remember, that's what I was saying just in a couple conversations we had just a few shows back when we were talking about I was saying to you how I felt like we're not willing to be critical of ourselves. And I was calling people cowards, and this fear of when we were just talking about I guess the conversation sprung from talking about my problem with people who have a problem with people being critical of Biden, which sparked this conversation. And it speaks to that, right? Like in the interim, not only do we have an opportunity to refocus and come back stronger, we have an opportunity. In order to do so, we have to recognize where we are weak.
Right.
If we're going to take it so hard, like, what are we doing? We're just going to take it hard until the next opportunity to vote and hope we win. We're not going to do anything. There's not going to be any critical analysis. We're not going to address any of the things that were like, okay, so we're under Trump for 4 years, and we don't like it, and we have a problem with it, but we can't do anything about it for 4 years. We've come at Trump every way possible, up to impeachment, right? Like every way possible. And what we haven't done in the meantime is what you just said: organize. And I'm going to add to that: criticize or critique ourselves, figure out where we're weak, swallow that pride, address those weaknesses. You understand what I'm saying? So that we can come back stronger. We do that, and we might not be in a position where we have to vote for Biden.
Sure. And that takes me back to my excitement that Raul thinks AOC is going to run in 2024. I mean, you're definitely dealing.
I think
with
so too.
You're definitely dealing with a couple of fans of AOC. I'm excited because, like, you know, I wrote like a little jingle for my appreciation for AOC that includes like hashtag 2024. So I've been thinking about this for a while. How excited I am.
Well, she has lots of gentlemen admirers. I have to say that she's a good-looking woman that's super smart. She's gonna have a lot of fans.
Yeah, no, I mean that's cool. I guess my fear would be she wouldn't run because she felt she doesn't have enough experience. But that's what I'm saying in this conversation where we look at ourselves as a party. Maybe we need to be bolder and not always be so, you know, careful, if you know what I mean. Like maybe we need to do. I mean, maybe taking a page out of the right, we need to go where the excitement and the spark is.
Absolutely, because if you notice the right, you know, the right is always the first one to complain that stars and celebrities are too much in our culture and too much opinionated on politics. But when they get a star or celebrity to run on the right, man, that's like the second coming of Jesus. You can't get rid of them after that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan.
Reagan. Trump himself. They're not the only ones either.
And you know they've been trying to court Trump for a while. See, this is the thing. You know, we're all like surprised on Front Street, but behind the scenes, what's his name?
Roger Stone.
Exactly,
Roger Stone.
Exactly.
He was on Trump's case 10 years ago.
Exactly.
10 years before.
Exactly.
He had known him from the early 80s. And boy, if there was a guy I would toss out of my office before it would be Roger Stone, because
that guy is the boogeyman of politics. That guy has been in there since Nixon's time, right?
Yes, he was basically a coffee gopher in Nixon's time, but he adored Nixon, and Nixon, of course, was the most corrupt thing that we had ever seen until now.
Yeah, Roger Stone, man. Is he? You think has he had some work done, or does he have? Like,
oh, you mean face work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He looks like a vain character to me.
Exactly. Like, is that like just evil? Is that evil keeping him looking a little bit young, or is that like?
Is he a reptile? Is that where you're about to go?
Yeah, like,
is that where you're going?
Like I don't know. Like, does he drink,
man, you almost made me kill myself, Flavors.
Like, sorry about that. Does he drink the blood of like young? I don't know, like babies.
What's the name of that species in Star Trek?
Oh,
they have a number.
You don't. Oh no, that species. I thought you were talking about the Dax people.
No. Flav probably doesn't know of them yet, but their designation is a number. Like species.
I forgot their name.
Which
series?
Which series?
It's Voyager.
Voyager. Okay.
His least favorite. Poor guy.
I'm open-minded.
It's the only species that the Borg genuinely fear.
Oh yeah, species 2-3 something or other.
Yeah.
3-2. I forgot what it is.
But they look young. They look forever young or something.
No, they're reptilian.
Oh, okay, reptilians. I see.
They share a lot in common with Roger Stone, then.
Yeah, they don't exist in the known universe.
They live in something called fluidic space.
Right. And all of their technology is organic.
Okay.
And they have
and they are evil as shit too.
They didn't know any other species existed outside of them, and once they discovered it, they want to destroy it all.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's impure to them.
The Borg can't assimilate them.
Yeah, so the Borg actually run from them. That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, they run from them.
So 2016, Bernie. There's a lot of other candidates that are running with his message now. He's not being so bold as to be like, I started this shit. And to be honest, he kind of had the same platform. So it wasn't like, not only have they absorbed his message, but now he doesn't really stand out from them. And he hasn't taken it to the next level of progressiveness, right? Like some new shit.
I will tell you though that Bernie's techniques of running is something that Trump looked at very particularly.
Okay.
Because he wanted to attract the crowds that Bernie was, so he started learning the little tricks that Bernie was doing as far as showmanship and and statements and
like
economic populism. Yes,
populism.
He used that whole dead cat strategy.
yes,
just in a different angle, right? He'd walk into a room and throw a dead cat on the table.
Excellent.
Can you expound on that a little bit?
So when you throw a dead cat on the table, right, there's gonna be some sort of shock and awe and then conversation.
And you feel like Bernie did that?
But from a different angle.
Different
right?
angle though.
Okay.
Yeah, Bernie addressed, right? You even used the term radical when it came to Bernie.
Oh, sure.
Right? And, we're talking extreme opposites of the same thing, though, right? Trump would walk into a room and he'd throw these dead cats on the table and say things about immigrants or other countries.
I see.
He's literally just walking into the room and he's throwing the dead cat on the table. He's like, yeah, the cat's dead.
And he loves it. He loves
I don't know
that
if you
strategy.
guys knew it, but here it is. It's on the table. So now you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the guy who's going to say, hey, there's an elephant standing right there.
Right.
See the elephant? Let's talk about the elephant. His tusks are pretty nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We could probably cut those tusks off and make a lot of money in ivory.
How
That's
awesome
really like Trump.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
How awesome would it be if we had, AOC, like our first 35-year-old president, just like running shit?
I think they need to be 45, so I think she's going to be in that range. She's going.
Wait, no.
Did they change it?
No.
Did they change it?
No, it's 35. That's why she's going to be exactly old enough.
Oh,
okay. She's going to be exactly old enough. Yeah.
Yeah, 35 is the standard.
I thought it was 45 for some reason.
That's because we haven't really had anyone under 45. 35's the actual age, but we haven't really had anyone that
That's
knows.
true. I think JFK was like 45, and that's why.
Yeah, 44, 45, yep.
45, because he had served in World War II and then served time in the Senate. So,
a good strategist is going to tell her to run for a lot of reasons, even if she can't win.
Just to get her name ID higher.
Get the experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like we